The moderator for this discussion is Vivek Venugopal, Managing Director, William Goodacre and Sons, India Private Limited. And he's also a TIE charter member. Vivek, you're on now.
Thank you, Tankam. In 2019, as per Investopedia, 90% of the startups, the failure rate for startups was 90%. And the number one reason cited was running out of capital. And if you look at all the big companies, that if you look at the Amazons and Facebook, or if you look at the Flipkarts and Info, they're all small companies which started up. And as you grow faster, actually, as your ideas and your team is better and your product is better, you need more and more cash to grow and capital to grow. And you may have the best team, you have the best technology, you may have the best, the market potential, but if you're not able to raise funds, you're dead meat. So that's the truth. Here we have with us a bunch of 4 young entrepreneurs from all based in Kerala who have successfully raised capital, and some of them actually in multiple rounds. They have second avatars, and some of them are actually even investing capital. So I think we have a bunch of 4 young gentlemen who are here. I would like to introduce them. First is Manodh Mohan, founder of Sales Fokuz.
Hi.
Welcome, Manodh. And his product is Sales Fokuz, which is kind of a competitor for Salesforce, actually. And I think they have several installations in Kerala where people who had installed Salesforce switched over to Sales Fokuz. So he's going to talk about that story. And recently he got $2 million funding from an angel investor based in the US. Congrats.
Thank you, Venu.
Afsal Salu. For Afsal Salu, this is the second round. He had his first round was delivery.com, which was a very successful hyper-local on-demand marketplace, which was launched in 2010, which was acquired by bigbasket.com. Then he continued with BigBasket for a few years. He set up the express delivery for BigBasket. Then he left BigBasket and he started a new company called BestDoc Technology. It's basically patient relationship management software. Welcome, Afsal. Then we have Hisamuddin, Mohammed Hisamuddin. For Hisamuddin also, this is his second round. He had a first company called SMS Gyan, which was based out of Bangalore. And now he has a company called EntriApp. It's basically a app for vernacular language learning platform for jobs in India. So basically it will train you for PSC jobs in Kerala PSC jobs, or, whether it's in a Tamil language or Andhra language. So people sign up and there are specific courses for each, like, clerical jobs, bank jobs, you name it, anywhere in India in local languages. That's the train. And it's an app-based program. So welcome, Hisamuddin.
Thank you so much.
Krishnan Iyer. His company is Waybeo Technology. He's been with Waybeo for 10 years. So this is his only venture. He has been very focused with that venture. And it has been named as one of the most promising technology company in iCloud communication by Texas University. And recently, in September 2020, very recently, like 2 months back, Bharti Airtel picked up a strategic stake in Waybeo. Congrats, Krishnan.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody wants to hear from you. So as a first round, I would just like to, you all have different stories how you started the business. So if you can just, like sometimes it's a big idea, or like an aha moment. Okay, this is a product. It's this product-driven time. Sometimes people get to and say, we want to start something. So we would like to hear like how you just, decided to become entrepreneurs and made that first plunge. I'll start with Krishnan.
So I think the idea was to start something. That is what triggered. We were in final years in 2008 on engineering college in Trivandrum. So we wanted to start something. That was the idea. So we never had a clue of what we were going to do, but we wanted to start. That's how we started. So the initial round of funds came from our home, our families, our friends. That's what we did. We raised close to 4 lakhs to start with. Then we started eventually doing some projects, web development, SMS, all the stuff. And 2010 is the year when we started thinking like, we need to become a product company, because product is what gets you an inorganic growth. So that's when we really started focusing this as a mainstream career opportunity.
Okay, that's interesting. So you just wanted to become an entrepreneur initially, and then the product came later.
Right, exactly.
Okay. How about you, Afsal?
So I became an entrepreneur in 2010. That was after working for about 6 years in Hindustan Liver, where I got an opportunity to travel across the country, work in sales as well as supply chain, understand a lot of innovations which they have been doing, being a true Bharat product company in multiple states, multiple categories. So that's when I got passionate and I thought that I would become an entrepreneur in retail. And the idea came into existence when we applied for Power of Ideas award, which was there with Times of India. There were 3 of us who were batchmates at IIM Lucknow, and we came down to Bangalore and set up Deliver in 2010. We didn't have the money to actually buy vans and do delivery. Otherwise, we wanted to do something similar to Big Basket much before Big Basket was born. So because we only had our PF money as savings and investment in startups were not a fashion those days, we had to actually do it with bikes, and then we started doing delivery of products using bikes, and that was how Deliver was born. We were pretty much the delivery guys and call center guys for about 2 years before we raised about a round of $1.5 million. And that helped us scale across the country, and that also helped us learn how money can change growth of a startup. And we were lucky to get acquired by Big Basket in 5 years with good multiples of return for our investors.
Thank you. Hisamuddin?
Yeah, so how we started initially, I started initially was basically straight out of college. So this was early 2010s, and I was in the final year of my BTech in Kasaragod, and we were 4 friends, and we had this final project called SMS Gyan, where we kind of had this stuff where people could search the Wikipedia through SMS, and it became a hit inside the campus, and we kind of decided to roll it outside the campus as well, and it became a hit outside as well. And then people started asking for other queries as well, right? For example, they started asking for cricket scores, movie reviews, um, general knowledge questions, etc. And then we eventually had around 35 different keywords. People could search almost everything on the internet through the medium of SMS, through SMS Gyan. So that's how we started. And again, like as started inside the campus and put it out, and then it became a hit outside as well. So we initially raised from our parents. I mean, like 4 of us raised 25,000 rupees each from our parents. That's how we started. And then we were able to raise from different angel investors outside. So eventually SMS Gyan went on to have 10 million users and more than 100 million queries answered. And we eventually raised venture fund as well from a fund called Seed Fund in Mumbai. So that's how we started.
Okay. Basically, your college project became a
Right.
venture. That's very interesting. And Manodh?
Yeah, for me, as I have told that I started from my home, and it was purely initially I was not a techie guy, so I have to learn from the baseline, and it was my livelihood that point of time. It took me almost 6 years. I was a freelancer. So by 2012, I registered my first company, and again I continued the service. And by 2015, one of the sales executive who was, we were literally behind him to send the DSR, that is daily sales report. That's how we end up into developing a new product called it was initially known as Aquila Trisis, then we rebranded as Sales Focus. So that's how it was purely our need. The product was purely our need. Then we marketed to some of our local clients, those who have already enjoying our service, and that's how we came into you can say a brand new name of as Sales Focus, because it is moreover focusing on sales. That's why we named as Sales Focus. And from there we have been sold to State Bank of India and a lot of other more than 7 blue chip companies are using this product currently, and with a user base of more than 10,000 users are currently using Sales Focus on daily basis. That's all my story is.
Okay, I think the legendary investor Ron Conway said, "Bootstrap for as long as you can," and looks like all of you started that way. So how long were you able to go with Bootstrap? Looks like Bootstrap and then family and friends. How long were you, like say Krishnan, how long were you able to bootstrap? your venture?
So we did it for 2 years with a bit of support from the family. And 2010 is where we got funding from the Kerala Startup Mission, which was used to develop our first product. So that's how we went from family projects, revenues, small incomes to a proper funding which will help us develop a product. So 2 years is what we did.
So how does this process of approaching family and friends work? Is it formal, or I mean, is Afsal, any one of you can jump in? Approaching family and friends for funding, because at that time I'm assuming that it's basically an idea. You don't have a whole lot of revenue coming in. You don't have, so it's an idea and people. So how does it work? I mean, Hisam, I see you. Looks like you have something to contribute there.
Sure. So basically, again, at entry, I raised from family and friends, I would say, because one of them was, both of them were like senior to me in my college, 2 years senior. They had like pretty good amount of money, and I pitched them this idea, and they kind of liked it. One of them was like family as well as senior in college. The other was a senior. And I think the key part here is when you pitch to family and friends, especially in Kerala, they don't understand how startup investing works, right? So they don't understand how they would get an exit. So usually traditional investors in Kerala, they kind of get the investment model from like traditional investments, like in ready-made shops or restaurants, etc., where they get a dividend every month, right? So that doesn't happen in startup investment. So you will have to kind of show them how this works. So for me, the first SMS Gyan story kind of helped, because we had given a 10x exit to a first angel investor at SMS Gyan. So I kind of showed that and said, okay, this is what we did to initial investor in my previous company. And if you invest, you have a chance of getting that here as well, right? So that helped me. But otherwise, I think the key part there is to educate them on how startup investment works. It's not going to be a traditional investment that you've seen so far, and this is the risk, and this is what you can gain in maybe 2, 3, 4 years. So one of them have like already partially exceeded entry at around 5x. So they've already got a return. So yeah, so I think the key here is basically to educate them on how startup investment works and then convince them. So I wouldn't encourage support to go and tell, okay, this we can give you a dividend every month, or like we give you 2x in 1 year, etc. Claims like that, be honest and tell them that this is how it works. It has a chance of like 95% failure, and this is what you can gain in 3 or 4 years if it works well.
So basically, you're saying it's not a debt; it's basically offering equity at that point.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So is that been the same experience for all of you when you collect
Yes.
raise money? Okay.
Yes.
What kind of company structure did you have at that point when you were offering family? What was the company? Was it LLC or a private limited? What structure did you have?
To me?
Yeah, please, Afsal.
Yeah. So for me, both the companies were private limited, because we realized that unless until you are putting it in a structure which is conducive for institutional investors to come later, it would be tough for you to manage the fundraising at later stages. So we started as a private limited company with the promoters having distribution of shares, and then we proposed that we would be giving them a share of that for the fund which we would be raising. For me, between the first one and the second one, Deliver versus BestDoc, the good thing was that 2010, it was very tough for you to be called as an entrepreneur or running a startup. You're pretty much a businessman. But come 2015, things have changed a lot in the country because of Flipkart and other successful startups. So it was pretty easy for me to go around and raise the angel round for the second one. People were aware of the returns versus risks, and there were a lot of people who were educated, who were looking at investing in startups as an alternative investment. So we were able to convince a lot of friends as well as colleagues. For example, I was able to convince 3 of my colleagues from Big Basket to invest in my current startup. So that's a good way in which things have panned out for the entrepreneurs in the current times.
So the friends and family who invested in your businesses, they are like, I'm saying like normal, regular people, or they understood the domain, or they were pretty savvy about this? Or was this the only startup investment they have done?
So there were a couple of doctors who understood that what we are doing would actually make sense in the healthcare sector, but pretty much everyone else was professional, either in a banking or non-related sector. So they looked at what's happening in the startup space, and they looked at the exit. So like what Hisam has done, the previous exit always talks for you. So that helps you to go and then raise the next round pretty fast.
So for Manodh, that's your first venture, so you didn't have a previous exit. So how did it work for you?
For me, Vivek, I have explained all the stages to all of the investor. But one investor who had bought more than 7 people, I just convinced that one guy. His name was Matthew Thurgan, and I just convinced him. And the very next moment, I got 7 new investor for me from him. So yeah, he's already means into the IT industry. He knows about the IT in and out, and he was having a lot of investment in multiple things, and he's an ex NRI, so he was having good amount with him, and his connects was very well, and I just have to convince one single guy, and through him I got connected to 7 more people. That's how I got funding.
And so now you have the money from family and friends, and how do you keep them updated? Like you take the money and it's equity, and hopefully at that point you're not giving any dividends. So how do you keep them updated? Like what's happening with the company and what's you know?
So
how do you keep them on the loop?
every month on 10th, I am creating a report wherein what is the sales are happening, what is the next growth we are going into, what is the next plan we are in coming 2 months or 3 months, we are going to achieve, what is the number of leads that is going to convert, what all blue chip companies we have pitched in, and in detail you can say this was purely in detail reports wherein our growth, what we have achieved. Recently we got one award, we have updated that, what PR activity we are doing. So all that reports we are making in detail, and you can say on weekly basis I am in touch with these all guys. Every Saturday I don't take calls from my company, I literally spend my time behind these investors. So these are the, I believe one thing, that they are the repeated investors. If they are convinced, they can repeatedly give me X amount, means there is no limit of amount. That's what I believe, because 3 of my investors, they literally invested on my startup itself 3 times. So I believe that if you keep on updating all the things, you won't be in trouble. So it's being a transparent way. So that's what I believe, and I have sustained that investors till the date. They don't have any problem, and they are bringing 2 more people, 2 to 3 more people. They are, through mouth to mouth publicity, they are bringing more people. But now I'm not going for any one-to-one funding. Now hereinafter, I will be going for a Series A fund. That will be because in another couple of months, means in another 2 months, we are getting the break even. So
Regarding this update, Krishnan, do you have anything to add? Is that the same model you followed, like monthly newsletters? And
I think initially, yes, it was, during the early days, like till 2014, 15, we used to do that, not on a monthly basis, at least on a quarterly basis, because they were more concerned that, we might shut down, things are not going fine. So the moment they realize that, we are doing good, there is a sale that is happening, we're making huge revenues, then I think the only thing they want is they don't want to exit. They're okay, holding whatever they are, even if there is a dilution happening, they're fine with that. They just want to hang on to what they have. I think so. After 2016, we are only updating them on a half yearly or a yearly basis. That's how it is working for us.
in the first round, what kind of equity dilution happens? Afsal or Hisam, who are going to jump in.
So if it's an angel round or a seed round, typical dilution is in the range of about 10 to 20. And most of the time, the institutional investors who are coming in, they are particular that you haven't diluted more than 20, because that leaves a good room for them to get in, and also make sure that the promoters have good skin in the game. So they are looking at these numbers. So angel seed rounds are typically in the range of about 10, 15, not more than 20.
Have any of you tried crowdfunding platforms?
No, I haven't tried.
Any of you? No.
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 So you have the bootstrapping, and then you go into the family and friends. How long did the both combine? How long did you spend? Like Hisam, how long did that take you?
You mean the bootstrapping amount? How long?
The bootstrapping and then the family and friends. At some point, you run out of family and friends, and you need to get external sources. Like, how many years were you able to run with that?
After the family and friends round?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we ran out of money. I mean, so this was in 2015. So it was actually a different product than Entry. So we started as this dashboard for coaching institutes. in 2015 for engineering and medical entrance exam coaching institutes, and we ran it for 2 years. So we initially raised 25 lakh rupees from family and friends, and that lasted only 1 year. So 2016, like I can say the whole year, I think at least 10 months we ran without any money. I mean, like we ran out of funds, and like I had to kind of put money from my own savings, and we ran it for 10 months without any external funding. And that is when in 2000 by the end of 2010 is when we got some angel investment. Also, we raised some money from KSIDC, Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, around 20 lakh rupees, and 10 lakh rupees from a couple of angel investors in Bangalore. So one was a former cricketer, Robin Uthappa, who put in some money, and a couple of other angel investors from Bangalore put in 20 lakh rupees. So we were able to raise around 45 lakh rupees by the end of 2016. That was again a set of, we can't call it an institutional fund. It was kind of an angel round. And that's when we also got into this accelerator called Learn Launch, which is based out of Boston, which is an EdTech accelerator. By early 2017, we had got into that, and they put in $50,000. And that kind of helped us move on to the next level. So that helped us pivot as well. So by the end of 2017, our initial product had reached nowhere. We were at 3,000 students, around 100 teachers using the platform. And when we got the fund, we kind of pivoted to a different product. And this set of investments that came in during that time kind of helped us pivot.
Yeah.
And we ran for again with that fund, we ran for another 1 year, and that's when we completely pivoted to this local language learning app. Users started coming in. There were growth, and there were more investors who wanted to join. So since then, we've raised $3 million over the next 2018 until now. We've raised $3 million from institutional investors.
And how is the angel, you mentioned about angel investors, how is the angel investing scene in Kerala? I mean, being located in Kerala, is it easy to access angel investors, or it doesn't matter where you are to get angel investors?
At 4 years back, that is in 2016, I think it was completely non-existent. I'm not sure how it is now, but 4 years back, it was completely non-existent. So I had to travel outside Kerala and raise the money that we had to raise. So I think the scene is a little better now, but I'm not sure if it's far better because I've not kind of gauged the interest these days.
Thank you. Krishnan, Afsal, Manodh.
I think all of our angel investors are, NRIs, but based out of Kerala. All of them. So we get connected from one to another, then they form a group, that's how, we got the angel funding. All of them are based in Kerala.
So
they're working outside.
For the Kerala startups, NRIs are a big opportunity for
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they understand about the ID part, it's a big opportunity for all the startups. I can say that because the NR are pretty ready. If they know the product, and if you can show them the traction, how the money is going to come in to the company and how long it will take, all the journeys, if you show them a picture, you can say, just like a storyteller, that will be the best part. And NRIs are pretty interested on that particular part.
Did any of you pick any strategic investors at that point? Somebody who is like, very much into your domain and then was investing in the other particular technology or product?
So for me, since we got into this accelerator called Learn Launch, which was an EdTech accelerator, we were lucky enough to get connected to a lot of EdTech investors through them. So that's how we've raised around out of the 3 million, 1.5 million from different US investors. And most of them are like investors from the EdTech sector. So we were kind of fortunate enough to get into Learn Launch, and then got to the right strategic investors.
And you, anybody you mentioned about KSEDC, but are there agencies within Kerala, government or otherwise, which is helping startups?
KFC. We have taken loan from KFC.
It's a debt, basically, right? It's a debt.
Yeah, it's a debt. Yeah, debt.
It's a debt. Okay.
It was under a entrepreneurship development program. It was inaugurated by KM Money back in 2015. So we took a loan from them. Yes. And Kerala Startup Mission is there, of course. You can get a seed loan from Kerala Startup Mission.
Okay. So I think now we go into the venture capital area. That's the most, the core part of raising money. And I was just reading a quote saying that fundraising is a full-time job. It is like being pregnant. You can't be a little pregnant. You need to be like, it's a full-time job. You need to be on it. And you are all running companies, and you have products, and you have customers to be served. And how do you manage? How do you manage this? At what stage do you think? When do you start looking out for VCs?
I think I started looking out for VCs when we were in the 1 crore revenue yearly. That is when we thought, we have enough traction, we have, good number of customers. There is a solid revenue that is coming in month on month. That is when we decided to, start pitching to VCs. So that's when I started getting the list of VCs in India. There is an Excel sheet that is, I think, that's available with almost all entrepreneurs. So we started taking that sheet, then started pitching to them, writing emails to them. Then you get responses from them. Then it goes to call, meeting. Then there will be a couple of meetings. Then you get an yes or no, or maybe further round of discussion. So that's how that's the stage when we started approaching VCs.
And how do you, when you have a list, how do you shortlist, and how do you Afsal, or how do you shortlist, and how do you approach them? How do you grab their attention?
So you basically look at investors who are having certain theses on particular sectors.
Mm-hmm.
There are investors who are focusing on B2C versus B2B. There are people who are focused on EdTech versus health tech or automation. So you identify those investors and then try to actually get connects to the partners in those VC firms. So it's pretty much a lot of networking which we need to do, because cold calls, direct introductions, even through events, it's pretty tough for the investor to actually look at you. So they need to hear about you from someone else whom they know, and that's the best way to actually talk to them. For me, the earlier exit helped because the Big Basket brand of having been able to sell a company to the Big Basket was easy for me to actually talk to some of the large VCs. And most of them are based out of Bangalore or otherwise Delhi. So it's about traveling to the cities. So when we were running BestDoc, we were traveling from Cochin regularly to Bangalore to meet the investors. And Kerala Startup Mission also was helpful in the early stage when they were actually bringing some of the VCs to meet the startups in Cochin as well. But pretty much a lot of work needs to be done based on investors who have, and also you need to be sure that they have not invested in competing companies, because then it would be just fishing for information which would be happening during those meetings. So you have to do a lot of homework. There's a lot of science behind fundraising. Yes.
Okay. And how many typically, if you have a list, it's a huge list, as you assume. Like if you want target is to get, say, funding from 5 VCs, how is the list when you start with? Is it 150, or what are we looking at?
I think that is 100 plus for me. I got meetings to up to 30 people have shown interest, had multiple round of meetings with them. But the biggest challenge I faced, or the kind of feedback that I received was, mostly everybody was telling to me that, the market size is too small. So, which was a very positive feedback for me, because when, if 1 or 2 investors are telling you that, there is a problem with market size, then that's okay, you can ignore them. But when a considerable amount of investors are telling you that, the market you are in is too small for an VC to, put in money, that's when we also realized that, okay, we need to do something bigger. It has to be a bigger market or a bigger problem that we need to focus on. And, that was a very positive feedback that I received from investors.
You said you started with 100 and then you came down to 30. How do you deal with rejection? The first rejection, do you get used to it, or do you get, at least in the initial days, or you expect that, right? Or how does it work?
So some people will simply say, we passed on this opportunity. So they will not tell you reasons for that. But, those 30 whom we get on call, they gave me a positive feedback, right? What is the problem? Why are we not investing? So I think in a way, physically, VCs will also help you to pivot, or maybe understand a bit more about the market. I think that was helpful.
So talking about feedback, if you're meeting 30 people, I'm just not talking specifically your case, but 30 people, and they're giving different feedbacks. Can you get confused in the process?
Definitely. Definitely you'll get confused. Because, some people will want you to take a different direction than what you planned for. So that is also there, a lot of, but one thing, what I understood is it was consistent. The market size problem was a very consistent, which most of the VCs told me. So that I took from that, understood, okay, there's a problem with the market that you're focusing. The size of the market is too small. Okay. So that is one thing I got out of the entire 30 session.
And the whole the approaching the VC process, do you have a mentor, or were you some of your family and friends who were like savvy enough who invested initially, were they helping any of you?
Yes. So initially when we started, we were more like, requesting for help to fine tune the pitching. So I think VCs like the way help. So some of the VCs, they said, we'll not invest you, but we'll help you in, fine tuning your pitch. Those kind of help, we got from a couple of investors. That really helps. So whenever there is another VC coming in and telling us, we go to them and ask, what should we do? How can we improvise the pitch? So there has to be some friends you need to find in the VCs who can help you with your pitch, with your deck, with your presentation, and all the stuff.
So while this whole process is happening, who takes care of the business? You have you divide among yourselves. I'm asking like a general question. How do you divide among the founders that I'll raise the money, you run the business? Afsal.
It's tough to actually take your eyes off the business, because whether you're raising money or not, you would be doing one particular part of the business function, which would be a complementary function compared to the other founders. So there is no way in which you can actually take your eyes off that particular part. The only thing is that you can bring in someone who is a good member in your team to make that person a senior leader, and then make sure that you're able to actually use that person's help to focus on your function while you're rating run. So typically the entrepreneur or the CEO is actually looking at fundraising spends about 25% of time, or you're regularly talking to investors. Even when you have raised the fund, that's when you actually get a lot of interest, inbound interest from other investors. So you need to be continuously talking to investors, and it has to happen irrespective of whether you're leading a function or not. I've seen some of the startups who actually said that one of the founders is just focusing on fundraising and then losing touch with what's happening in the business when you're talking to investors. So that's also not a good sign.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know the background with Manodh, so that's why I kept him for the last. I think, why don't you explain your story? I think there's nobody better to do that.
Yeah. Vivek, I would rather say that 25%, whatever, what was, I forgot his name. Yeah. So what he was telling is that 25%, yeah, of course, if you go, means if your touch on your business goes from your hand, then of course, whenever you are busy with your investors, you will be facing a lot of problem on that, because all the new technologies, you have to keep yourself update with your team members, because any new options, any new modules comes in your product, because that's your baby. And getting an investment, for me currently, getting an investment, I'm not into that much, because we are in couple of months we are going to get the break even, and we will be going for the investments.
And your story is also different in the sense that you only made one pitch and you got funding, right?
Yeah. It's you can say the correct contact, because I've seen a lot of investors. I've been also for the angel investor in Delhi, so I have an idea that what questions they are asking, and I thought that for them, they have already told me one thing in one single round, that you are just your product is just a concept right now. You need to work on that. You need tractions. So there are more than 10 to 15 questions what they asked in my round, and I've made it. And after addressing all that questions, I went to the angel, means friends and family. That's how I prepared. And for getting funds, I have shortlisted some of the guys, those who have already fund and have small interest in IT. That's how I got the funding.
And you've made a lot of except Manodh, I think everybody else has made a lot of pitches, and I think Hisham and Afsal has in both companies. Like, what are VCs looking for? What are the things? What are the do's and don'ts in your pitch?
I think when it comes to, if you ask me the most important slide, I think it would be the growth slide. How can you grow? Like, for example, if you have, let's say, 10,000 users, how can you grow to like 1 million users? Or like, if you have 1 million users, how can you grow to 10 million users in the next 18 or 24 months, right? So that slide is very, very important. And for that slide to like come into life, you'll have to show different other parts as well, right? So the total addressable market, can the users actually spend the money in that particular market for your product to grow revenue? So that particular, so again, every investor eventually looks into a company and thinks that can this grow to $1 billion company, right? So most of the VCs think like that. So you'll have to show that story, right? So in your pitch, in your deck, you'll have to show that, okay, this can grow to $1 billion company. So $1 billion company usually means 100 million in annual recurring revenue, ARR. So if you can show that in your deck, in your pitch, I think you have a good chance of raising money. Plus some initial traction that you've got, some initial signs that you're already growing, you've found product market fit, etc. That will also help. But bottom line is you'll have to show that growth story. I think that's one of the most important things in a pitch.
And once you show the growth story, if it's too optimistic, then when you go back, will you be able to? You should also be able to back it up, right, with real performance.
Right. So that's how it works, right? So for example, when you raise your first round, it's completely a story. So for me, when I raised my first round for entry, it was just a pitch deck, right? So when the next round came in, I had some numbers to show, right? When the third round, when the institution round came in, I had more numbers to show, right? So with the funds you raise, you'll have to validate that by bringing in real numbers, real users, real revenue, etc. Right? So when I go for Series A, I'll have to show the numbers that I promised to our last investors, or even better than that, for me to be able to raise my next round. And yeah, one of them will be for these new investors, there'll be some evidence that I've already gained this much traction with the money that I've raised, and then this is what I'm looking for. So that kind of helps bring trust to the investors.
So initially, when you start, it's mostly about the team and the ideas and the growth story. And as you go along, you need to show the actual numbers to back it up.
Exactly.
Is that what Krishnan, Afsal, do you have anything to add?
So when it's early stage, it's mostly the team which the investors would look at. But if you're able to go beyond that into the product market fit, and then show that there is a path to grow it to the scale which reaches a large market opportunity. So most of the large VCs in the country, they are looking for companies to grow up to 500 million, billion plus market size opportunity. So only if you're able to trace that path and say that you have been able to do that in terms of what we have done over the last few years, they would believe in you and then your capability to do that again.
And this whole journey with the VCs, meeting different VCs, is it like a roller coaster ride? I mean, you think you got something and then it goes down, it doesn't happen, and you go through that, or how? Is it like a roller coaster ride? I mean, kind of thing.
So for us, the last round was actually a very challenging one, because we got our first term sheet just 2 weeks into COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then for us to make sure that we are able to actually have one more investor, because we had asked that first investor that we want to have multiple investors in the first round itself, because we didn't want to give away too much to one investor who would have significant negotiation power. So we said that we will have 2 investors, and getting an investor post COVID was the toughest part. But luckily, we were able to actually use the first term sheet to talk to a lot more investors who were interested, and close that in a few weeks' time.
During this process, do you have a lot of lawyers involved in all this, in negotiations, or is it basically?
It's always good to have a lawyer on your side so that you're able to actually, because there are a lot of parts in the term sheet as well as the agreements which you as an entrepreneur would be clear about, and the ramifications of those in future. So it's always good to have a lawyer or a law firm which has worked with startups at various stages.
How good is a term sheet? Does it happen that you get a term sheet and then it finally doesn't, funds don't come through in the end? Has it happened to you? I hope it hasn't, but I've read it happens sometimes.
We were lucky, so we were able to convert the term sheets. Yeah.
Okay, but you don't stop once you get a term sheet, right? You keep going or looking for other investors, or did you stop there?
So in a short time frame, if you're able to actually attract interest from a few more competing term sheet, that actually works out to be the best way in which you can negotiate your terms. Even otherwise, it's about the right partner. So if you're able to get a term sheet from an VC whom you definitely feel that is going to help you in your journey, in your global expansion, then even if the terms are not as favorable as the subsequent ones, you can go ahead with the first one.
And how is approaching the VCs different from approaching angel investors? The whole pitch. Institutional VCs, I'm saying.
I think angels don't really look at, like, say, is it $1 billion plus, market size, they believe more towards, what you got to pay, the kind of energy that is, the enthusiasm, those kind of things matters most to the angels, at least in my experience, that has been like that, they were not looking at $1 billion plus kind of a market size. Whereas when it goes to VCs, I think the first question is, is it a market, what is the market size, and then the growth, and then comes the people is what I've seen. So angels, I think they look at you, they trust you as a person more than as a company. No, I think that's the main difference.
Yeah, of course. On my case also, Vivek's the same. Krishna told that. Moreover, the trust matter works here, but rather than the company or the team, the trust matter works here. And apart from that, of course, they look after the companies that are purchasing our product. Means those who are enjoying our product currently. So on that basis, also, if they are doing an investment, the second part, if you need the repeated investment, you need to show them some tractions. So showing them tractions means you need your product need to be accepted by not the local companies but the blue chip companies. So well-known blue chip companies, if they are using your product, of course you will be getting the second round of investment anyhow.
And you made only one pitch and that clicked. What do you think made that click?
I would say that the guy who invested in my company, he was looking to invest in IT company. Moreover that, he was looking for a trustworthy guy who is pretty good, his product is good enough, and he was looking into B2B sector. My product is basically into B2B sector, and the biggest name in the country, you can say the State Bank of India. So that's how I have shown him the purchase order. He verified the purchase order. After verifying purchase order, he just came into, just like State Bank of India, Godrej. That point of time, I was having these two purchase orders. That's how my investor got interested and got that traction. Vivek.
Any of you had a situation where we got very close to getting funding and it didn't come through? Looks like.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of times. I mean, I think what I think it's very dangerous to have this wishful thinking thing. Like, for example, investors kind of say like, okay, I'm interested, let's talk more, and then you go under this impression, okay, this guy is going to invest, right? So, and after like 3 or 4 rounds of conversation, they say no. So that kind of is very dangerous because when you have wishful thinking and see, okay, I have these 3 investors on board, I don't want to talk to more investors. I think that's a dangerous sign. So you need to talk to as much investors as possible. So in our case, what we've done is basically we started talking to investors pretty early. So I think which is one good thing to do. For example, if you're going to raise 6 months down the line, you should start talking to investors right away. And in the pretext of, like, especially for early stage founders, in the pretext of getting feedback, find out the right kind of investors for you, the investors who is investing in your category, and just tell them that you're not going to raise now. I just want feedback, and then you'll also get good feedback as well as they know about your product, and then keep updating them. So I maintain this list called Friends of Entry, where I send monthly progress updates to around 300 people before we actually raise money. And what happens is basically out of 300, 50 would reply. 50 out of the 50 who replies, 10 would be really interested, and 5 would eventually invest, right? So it's like your sales process, right? So you pitch to 100 people, 95% say no, and 5 bites the dust, right? So it's actually a sales process. You're selling a part of your company for some money, and obviously 95% would say no. And if you consider it as a sales process, it's also easier to accept rejection, because okay, 95% of them are eventually going to say no, right? So I think it is literally a sales process. Consider as that. Maybe have a proper CRM to track. Like I use Trello board to like track all the investors and put them in okay, lost or won, and then eventually I'm sure that 2% to 5% would be interested.
You mentioned that in this, going back to the sales pitch, the pitch, you said that the growth story has to be shown to the VCs. What are the don'ts you need to keep in mind while making a pitch?
I think you shouldn't put your PR news articles in your pitch. I've seen a lot of like people, founders putting their good-looking profile pics, news articles, etc. That's a straight away no. I think there is a standard template to be followed. So if you most of the well-known angel investors put out their standard templates. Sequoia has a very good one. So if you take a look at that and like look at other good features, I think you'll get a good idea. So obviously PR is one certain no. Yeah, so that's what I can think of right now. Yeah.
And Afsal and Hisamuddin, you have done this twice. So does your first venture, how much return we were able to give to the investors that influence, or the same investors invest in your second venture? Do you find that a lot?
So I don't have a common investor between the two ventures, but I was able to convince my boss, who was the CEO of Big Basket, to invest in my current startup because of the work which we have done in the first one, and post acquisition, the work which I've been able to do at Big Basket. So people who are professional investors don't get swayed by the previous returns, which an entrepreneur, because there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs who have just done one startup really well, and all the subsequent ones would not have taken well off. So it's definitely huge risk versus huge returns, and they understand that, and they normally look at your hold in the sector where you're getting in, whether you have got right product market fit, you have got the team to build it. So those are the things which the investors would look at versus the returns.
I have some like more general questions, and then we will go on to a Q&A session, very short Q&A session. So if you look at Kerala, and if you look at the Kerala ecosystem, what do we need to do better to help startups? I'll start with Krishnan.
I think the talent pool that we have with respect to the technologies that are needed, the understanding of the technologies, we are finding it very extremely hard and challenging to find people in tech especially. So I think more conferences, I think people from successful companies should take workshops, and we should build a talent pool on our own. It's something is very much needed for any startup.
So your concern is basically the talent pool in Kerala.
I think more towards the technology. We have to focus deep on the tech, and getting people who really understand the new and upcoming technologies. It's very difficult to find resources. That is a big challenge.
Same, Vivek. Yeah, getting the good resources, the talent is literally in Kerala, because hunting a good guy or good team member is pretty tough in Kerala, and hiring the smart guy in your team is the biggest, you can say, the win-win situation in the company.
I mean, there are tons of Keralites working in all the big companies. Is that they don't want to join a startup, or is there just not people available?
They don't want to join a startup because they feel that it's high risky, and all the trainees of in my company, some of the trainees, those who have got experience, they pretty after getting an experience, they just switch over from means the startup company to a well-known company, because they don't want to be in picture of startup company. And some of you can say some of the means the team members, though, are pretty confident on getting some return from the company, then for sure they are sticking on the company. And in my company, more than 6 members who are there from the initial stage.
Afsal?
One, from the entrepreneur side, definitely understanding of what's happening outside Kerala is required. Irrespective whether your team is based out of Kerala, you need to travel a lot. You need to speak to entrepreneurs from other parts of the world, and that would definitely help you at least benchmark where you stand versus others. Because the VCs are not looking at startups specifically from Kerala. They are looking at the companies which can give them the best returns, and they would look for those companies wherever they are based out of. The second thing with respect to the team, I think giving them exposure is good. Post-COVID, we have been lucky to actually hire a lot of people from outside Kerala as well. These are Keralites who are working in places like Pune, Bangalore, who are now ready to work for you because location is not a constraint. You can work from anywhere. So we are able to onboard a lot of good talent very recently. And that's one of the good outcome post-COVID for us. So we are now not asking anyone to be based out of Cochin. We are okay if they're working from Hyderabad, Bangalore, wherever they are.
Something?
Yeah, so I think one thing that would help Kerala startups is like a lot more HNIs investing in them. So I think there are some NRIs investing, but I think it's still not very widespread. So and there are like enough HNIs inside and outside of Kerala with enough money sitting in their bank accounts. So if they can start investing, I can see a lot of startups in Cochin, in Trivandrum, in Calicut, even without getting funding. So if we can kind of have a home ground set of angel investors in the form of these HNIs, I think that will be a great thing. Especially so one thing that Krishna and Manodh pointed out, the talent problem. So if you give, so what we figured out in Kochi, we are able to hire some of the best talent before they actually go to Bangalore. The COVID situation has kind of accelerated that because everyone's working from. But even before COVID, we were able to hire the best talent. That's because we were able to give very good competitive salaries, and to be able to give competitive salaries, you need funding, right? So I think if we have a very good, healthy ecosystem of angel investment in Kerala, a lot of those problems get sorted, and it will actually help a lot of startups get off the ground. And then once they get off the ground, I think they'll figure out go outside, travel, and raise more money. But yeah, that part is very important, I think.
So all of you have gone through at least running one startup right now. Some of you two startups. If you were to do all of this all over again, what would you do differently? Krishnan.
I think I would focus on a bigger problem from the initial stage itself. That is something, what we missed. It took us some time. It's been 10 years since we started. The problem we focused was, small, so that, we couldn't scale. So it took us some while to understand, we have to focus on a bigger problem, solve a tough problem to, actually scale. I think if I were to start differently, I think I would focus on a larger problem in the initial days itself.
Manodh?
The same, yes. Because me and Krishna is, moreover, you can say we have the same journey. And I can say that my product is also solving a larger problem, but the giants are there. So I'm building the brand right now. So I think the biggest thing is that your product should solve the larger problem. So next time I will keep in mind to address the larger problem and design a product, something like that.
Afsal, you were able to, this is your second venture, so I'm sure you took a lot of lessons from your first one. So if you're starting a third one, what would you do differently?
So build fast, fail fast, because even if you need to actually clearly know whether you are solving a larger problem with an investor to look at, you need to actually know that very fast. So the first one and the second one, we took about 2 years to raise external funding, be it angels or institutional rounds. So if you're able to actually have someone who's able to back you, take that bet, you can do it faster. So identifying who would be convinced with your business and then moving fast, and time is the most important resource for all of us. So if you can actually do that very well in the first year, you clearly know whether you are doing it well. So crunching the product market fit is what I would focus on the next one.
Mohammed?
I think spend a little more time on research before you actually, so especially for early stage founders. I think what I'm seeing is basically they get an idea and they start the very next day, right? So without in some ways that is good, but we are seeing ideas that are like, if they research for like 1 or 2 months, they soon figure out that okay, this is not going to work, and this end up spending like 3 months or 6 months or even 1 year building that, right? So I would suggest spend some time. I mean, if you're young, especially young, spend some time. I would say even 3 or 6 months just building it as a side project if you have a job already, and then figuring out if the traction is coming, and then talking to investors, getting feedback, etc., before you actually take the final leap of doing it full time. So yeah, I would suggest anyone starting up to do a side project on what you want to actually do, and then figure out if this is going to work or not, and then actually take the leap to start it full time.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, your final parting words, final piece of advice to budding entrepreneurs in Kerala. 30 seconds, if you can, 30 to 45 seconds, if you can do that, each one. I will start with Afsal.
Look for a problem which can be solved across the world, not only in Kerala. That's one thing which I've seen as a challenge with entrepreneurs, especially from our state. Look beyond our state, look beyond our country. There are definitely problems which can be scaled across the world now.
Mohammed?
I would say basically focus on a niche. So like for example, a lot of people are starting edtech startups these days, and one common question that I'm getting is like, how can we start something new when there are like so much competitors, not only in edtech, any other sector? So I would say it's target a small niche. So for example, in the case of Entry, even though there were a lot of competitive players, we started by only focusing on this particular exam called LTC exams, Kerala PCLTC exams, right? Even though there were competitors there, since we were only focused on that, we were able to better provide a better product, and then eventually we diversified into more local language exams. So focusing on only one niche area, even if there are competitors there, and then building it like 5 or 10x better than the existing competition, will take you off the ground, and then diversifying into more products with the same template will help you grow in areas where there are already large competitors.
Krishnan?
Becoming an entrepreneur, it takes you a lot of energy and effort required to learning. I think we should be open to learning and be willing to pivot, because the ideas you think may not be the actual ideas that will actually end up working. So I would say be open to learning and ready to pivot.
Manodh?
Yeah, Vivek, I will say each and every startup, one thing is that planning is the key. And if if your planning is proper, then for sure your product will be you can break any blue chip company. The main thing is that the planning, the product matters. But one more thing, in the market currently, all our clients, you can say, they have been using the big brand names, but their problem is still a problem, and wherein we are giving them the solution. And I will say the startup to whatever you pitch, make sure that your planning is very proper. So planning is the key. Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your valuable inputs. I thank each one of you and each one of the people who have logged in for this session. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We don't have Q&A. We had some questions which I've already addressed in the chat room. So, and also would like to thank the Thai team, Nirmal, and also the CM team, Thankam, Ajit, Hari, Jacob, and also I was helped very much by Naveen Philip and Rahul Maman to help prepare for the session. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Have a
Vivek.
nice evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Over to you, Thankam.